Hello, everyone. This is Andres Restart. This is the beginning of the live stream. And tonight we are talking about The Legend of Zelda and we are talking about Nintendo Switch 2. There are wild things happening on both fronts, so we'll be discussing those tonight. Kind of looks like there's a bit of a rough transition here. I wonder. I mean, it's fine. It doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. It's just kind of weird that happened. Um, Brandon was going to be here. Now I'm not so sure because he's telling me his power went out. Yeah, I don't know. If your power goes out, then that may mean you can't join. Although, Brandon, if you're listening, it could come on your you could do it through your phone, right? You could, because if you can respond to my messages on Twitter, you could also click on your phone. But I'm just whatever. If you can make it, great. If not, I get it. I understand. Power. That's you need power. You need power. Yeah, so in terms of what's going on right now, we have a lot of interesting Switch 2 rumor leak report things that have been happening. But there's like a breaking story that's going on over the last few hours, and we're going to be diving into that. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all. It might not be that big of a deal, but it also might be kind of a big deal. We'll get into it. The Zelda stuff, though, is just kind of pure excitement, at least to me. So I think we probably touched on it last week a little bit. We had that trailer, but we got more information at the end of the week. Last Friday, the website was updated, and they showed some really cool things. So we'll be diving a little bit more into that conversation, kind of talking about the nuances of the mechanics that we can kind of at least glean from what's been shown so far, and also diving into some expanded theories as well. So that's the general plan for the evening. Guys in the chat, liking the stream, commenting is super helpful. Thank you all for who are here so far. I really appreciate it. And with that all said, I guess let's get started. I'm gonna check in with the chat here real quick. But if you guys could let me know how everything is looking and sounding, that would be very much appreciated. I would definitely appreciate it. Yeah, for sure. Hey, Sam Talks Games is in the chat. What's up, buddy? Sean Jones, thank you for letting me know that everything sounds good. I appreciate that. RNL asks me, will Switch 2 be more of a handheld or something completely different? I mean, my perspective is that it's going to be essentially what the Switch is, just better. Now, there's a lot of conversation about, different gimmicks that the Switch 2 may have. But I pretty much just think it's going to be a better Switch. Now, a couple days ago, we did talk about this report that came up from Universal Nintendo that was sort of highlighting some discoveries made on family boards about some different parts that are being set up to be manufactured. And one of those parts is going to be a 60-watt charger that may enable fast charging. And then another would be an additional smaller cooling fan. And so these supposedly will be in the Nintendo Switch 2. And these are kind of big deals when you kind of think about it. So the current Switch charger is 36 watts, and I believe it's limited to 19. I would assume that this other charger would have its own limitations as well, but the fact that the wattage is significantly higher, you can do a lot more with that. Perhaps clocking at even higher speeds, for example. And that's a big deal because the Switch already clocks at a higher speed when it's connected to an external power source. In other words, when it's docked. And that enables better visual fidelity. Now, if you can go even further with this because of the higher wattage charger, that's a big deal. But the other kind of factor in this equation would be the fan, because technically the Switch can clock to an even higher speed than it doesn't do for consumers, likely due to heating safety issues, right? However, if you have an additional fan put in there for this higher clocked mode when docked, then they can push that even further. And so I tried to make the point a couple days ago that from this new information, I think it supports the idea that the Switch 2 can be more of a hybrid. And what I mean by that is, yeah, you still have handheld mode, right? So yeah, Switch 2 would be a handheld. And technically Switch 1 is a hybrid because you can play it as a home console, right? You can dock into your television, you have multiple controllers connect to it. Visually it is better on the television overall. But on Switch 2, if these things are indeed going to be part of the package, then that's going to really help it to push home console mode or docked mode even further. In other words, it will be a better hybrid because it'll be a better home console while still being a pretty good portable. And on note of portability, the fast charging, well, would also facilitate better portability because you dock it in there for a little while, 30 minutes, an hour, however long it would take. It takes to fully charge, but it charges a lot quicker than it would normally. So you can kind of be docking it in and out all the time, going back and forth, making the overall experience better. So that's kind of some information that's popped up recently. And yeah, so essentially, like, just little things like that would just, I would argue, really improve the overall hybrid experience, the switching experience. And there's a lot more we can get into. So, you know, but that part right there, I think is pretty cool when you kind of think about the implications of it. Now, I see Chrono Rick here is asking, is he going to talk about the Christopher Dring article about Switch 2 release date theory? Yes, we're going to talk about it. That is the breaking news story. We are going to talk about it. I'm still wrapping my head around it, but we're definitely going to talk about it. And I guess we can talk about it first. We can save the Zelda stuff for a little bit afterwards, or do a little bit of a blend, because, I mean, it's just kind of me here. I don't think Brandon's going to make it, so I guess this is more of a Q&A live stream, right? But yes, we're going to talk about it probably in a couple moments. Let's see here. Sam, I saw you there. Let's see. Nature and Music Wyatt says everything sounds great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Nintendo Prime, more power. More power. LNA Plush Plays, are you doing a stream whenever Echoes of Wisdom comes out? Probably. At least one live. So I don't, as you guys probably know, I don't really live stream games too often, but I'm not opposed to doing it at least occasionally. A lot of it's just kind of like, you know, managing my time and resources. You know, I'm not a streamer, right? I wouldn't call myself a streamer. And I personally prefer playing most of my games in private. However, I do sometimes enjoy playing them live. I've had enjoyable experiences, like when we did the Breath of the Wild Master Mode run leading up to Tears of the Kingdom. I really enjoyed that live stream series. And occasionally I do try and go back. I try to do a new run of Tears of the Kingdom. I did it for a few weeks, but I moved on from it. But yes, I will at least try to stream. I will at least do one Echoes of Wisdom stream. I remember I did a Princess Peach Showtime stream. It was okay. But yes, there will be at least one, maybe more. We'll see how it goes. Having Hope, having been a member for 18 months, thank you for sticking around all this time. Having Hope says, hey, Andres, hey, everyone. And with the Zelda and Metroid emojis. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you. Arnold Atsy, since there's an August Direct coming, do you think we'll be getting everything that we wished for? Well, I guess the question is there really an August Direct coming? Right? So we don't know that yet. It's not confirmed. But under this hypothetical, it's tricky. It kind of depends on what the Direct is. If it's like a normal like Direct mini or something, then I this is a nuanced conversation because there's layers to this. So give me a moment. I'm going to come back to that. Adam Rome, but even over 16 months, says, yo to you as well. Hello. Andrew asked, do you think the controllers will be able to switch out different controller schemes? Do you mean like having just straight up a different controller that you can pair or attach to the console? Or do you mean like having plates that we can replace and change the buttons? Like, do I have it here? I do have this. So, for example, you can have a controller, right, where you can take off the plate and you can, in theory, change out pieces, right, like that, something like that. I don't really expect them to do that. I think third-party controllers, right, like this, you'd be able to do something like that. Now, you look at the Switch, right, like technically you have the Joy-Cons, but there are technically a few controllers that you can put sync up to the console that are a little different. So essentially, I how it works on Switch is how I envision it to work on Switch 2. I don't think we'll have changeable like face buttons or control sticks like we can for third-party controllers, but those third-party controllers are still going to exist. And there's a lot of really good ones for Switch. So like I always kind of thought that, man, I really don't like playing Smash with third-party controllers, at least back in the day. But I think there's been so many great third-party controllers made for Switch. I have several, and I like playing them for Smash Brothers. To me, if I can enjoy a controller for Smash Brothers, that's the ultimate test if it's a good controller. Because I don't like using the Joy-Cons for Smash Brothers. And there's a lot of third-party controllers I don't like using for Smash Brothers. But there are certain ones that I've used over the last couple of years that I'm like, yeah, that's good. I'm not thinking, man, I really wish I had my Pro Controller right now. So they exist, and I do kind of think that there are certain companies that are really stepping up their game. And now if there's the success of the Switch 1, I would be willing to bet that even more companies are going to try to get involved with Switch 2 very quickly. The same way how we made arguments about third-party companies with their games wanting to get it on board really quickly. I imagine not just with games, but also with controllers, peripherals, all that stuff. There will be some pretty top-of-the-line stuff relatively early on. That's my speculation, at least, on that. Sam Talks Games asks me, I know the YouTube scene must be difficult right now with how Switch 2 has likely been delayed further, but keep up the grind, it'll pay off, dude. I don't know. That is... I don't even know. I don't know what to do. Life is tricky. I don't even know, like, how much I get into that stuff. Because I'm not a big YouTuber. I've been trying to make it as a full-time creator, but I'm not there. I don't really want to make any bold proclamations right now, but I'll say that if it is indeed the case that the Switch 2 is going to take even longer to come out, and especially looking at what Nintendo has set up for us so far, I do have concerns about being able to stay in this position. I may have to take a step back at some point. I don't want to do that, but fact of the matter is, the economy is not great, right? I live in one of the most expensive parts of the country, in South Florida, Miami, and personal circumstances right now are creating some additional challenges, right? The living expenses down here are very high, and my living situation may be changing soon, and not for the better. For like, I gotta be on my own and spending a ridiculous amount of money just so I can be near family and friends, because I could choose to live somewhere else and I could be able to afford it just fine, but in order to be surrounded by the people I care about, I have to basically live on my own, and it's going to be extremely expensive. So there are challenges. Don't really want to focus on that stuff, right? It is what it is. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, we'll see. Regardless, though, I'm not going to stop creating content. It just kind of comes down to how can I continue? Will I have to take a step back for a little while? I don't know. I will say that at least in the last few weeks, things have been pretty good. I feel like we've been trending in a great direction. You know, we've been able to talk about Pokemon. We've been able to talk about Xenoblade. We've been able, obviously Zelda, right? Like, and yeah, there's the Switch 2 stuff. So, I do think that there's a lot of good things that we've been able to talk about. I personally think things are going relatively well. This year overall, no, hasn't been good. But you know, it's there's ebbs and flows, and right now this is the transitional phase, right? We had this optimism that Nintendo would handle things seamlessly and well, and they may still. But it's not up to Nintendo to handle things in a way where creators are doing well. I guess you can make the argument that maybe they should, because content creators help to market them, right? So maybe they should make decisions with that in mind. But also, they they shouldn't be oh, let's make sure our console comes out 6 months earlier than we want, just so these YouTubers can have things to talk about. Like that, they can't make decisions for that reason. They have to do what's the best for their bottom line. But that's just, I guess, kind of comes with the territory of having a business of any kind, right? If you're running a business, in other words, if you're not working for a big company, right? Like if you're trying to build something on your own, even when you are working for a company, depending on how the economy goes, depending on how relations with the other companies goes, so there can be mass layoffs, things can happen. Or if you have your own business, sometimes you got to shut down, right? There's a lot of people who try and start restaurants and they just can't make it. Maybe a great restaurant, but if they're not getting in enough people, especially if it's, not easy to kind of, pay for expenses, and they got to shut down. I'm not saying I'm going to shut down, but yeah, I mean, it is challenging for a lot of, Nintendo content creators right now. But that's just, this is that low point year. So we'll see. Mulan, I don't live stream on Twitch. I technically have a Twitch, but I don't really use it ever. Then 10,000 noodles here says, but what's harming the Nintendo YouTubers is also harming Nintendo. Lost momentum. I think you make a great point there, actually, right? Because, I mean, I do see, I do see that kind of correlation. There is a correlation there, right? Like some of the biggest Nintendo channels exploded when the Nintendo Switch came out and exploded, right? There is that, right? You look at big channels like Game Explain, which is definitely going through a lot of issues right now, and they're one of the biggest Nintendo channels, and yet they have suffered quite a bit. Some of that has to do with the times. It does. It is what it is. Anyway, I got things to talk about. We'll see how things go, right? Because especially if there is kind of some sort of direct soon, it's fine. Like for me, and we'll talk more on this, right? Because I want to kind of do things in order. So let's get into the Switch 2 stuff. Snicksack, when it comes to the Game Explain drama, essentially Game Explain has let go of more employees. They used to have a big, I won't say a big team, but they had Andre Seegers, who runs Game Explain, who owns Game Explain, has had a handful of team members, right? And they are all paid, right? He pays them so they can have a living, right? apparently over the last 2 years, they have not been making enough money. Andre Segers has been putting his own, what would be his own take home, back straight into the company to try and keep things going as long as possible. But it got to the breaking point where he could not retain his team anymore. He could not afford to keep them on. So he let go of Joy and Tristan. And a few months ago, they lost Jake knows, Jake knows it, right? So their team is a lot smaller now. So that's kind of it. And I think some people are shocked because Game Explained is such a huge channel to see them impacted by not being able to bring in the same, a revenue to support a team anymore. So that is kind of what it is. Anyway, let's talk about the Switch 2 stuff that's going on. And it's a little layered, right? Because what was it during the weekend? Yeah, this all happened Sunday, apparently, like early morning Sunday, right? Well, maybe it was the day before, but point is, it happened over the weekend. Brazil put out a podcast, and it's in Portuguese, right? But some people did a translation, and essentially, he talked about he's an insider, he's a journalist, right? And he talked about how it seems that Nintendo's brought forward, I'm kind of reading this off, has brought forward some plans regarding the Switch 2's release schedule. Basically, some presentations that would be happening in September will be coming in the next couple weeks. So hopefully that's true. We'll see some cool news soon. That would be very interesting. But then he also said that this podcast, which he does podcast every week, should be one of the last podcasts before Switch 2 news really starts to pop up. What I think he means by that is just kind of like reports and stuff of that nature, not necessarily official news from Nintendo. And he also added that, in his opinion, the Switch 2's release should more or less follow the same route as it was with Switch 1. Now, more or less following the route with Switch 1, what does that mean? In my video, I point out that, hey, while Switch 1 had its teaser reveal trailer October 2016, then a few months later, early January, there was a big presentation. Then a few weeks later, it came out, all in a 4.5 month window. That doesn't mean it's going to be exactly, hey, in October, we're going to get the Switch 2 teaser, presentation January 2025, releases March, right? I floated around the idea in that video that maybe it comes a little bit later, maybe April or May. Like, that's a possibility. But give or take a month or two, that's what I think Brazil was sort of suggesting. So this is the conversation that was happening Sunday and I guess Monday. But today, some things broke out, right? So people are kind of like a little bit on a high. They feel like we're going to get some cool news from Nintendo. Not Switch 2 official in August, but some different direct things. Maybe a Direct Mini, maybe a Pokemon Presents or a partner showcase, like something, right? From Nintendo in August. Maybe a game-specific Direct. But it would be a sign that Nintendo is getting close to actually showing off the Switch 2. So that was kind of where we were at until earlier today, where multiple different insiders now start peeping about this stuff, right? So, a few. Apparently, Chris String, during the Game Industry podcast, said, "No developer I've spoken to expects it to launch in this financial year. In fact, they've been told not to expect it in this financial year. A bunch of people I spoke to hope it's out in April, May time." So there's that. But then also, Video Games Chronicle, as they like to do when one person says something, they like to pile on. This was posted by Tom Ivan. Developers reportedly told not to expect Switch 2 to launch before April 2025. Switch's successor is seemingly set to be released during Nintendo's next financial year. Now, this is apparently it's just essentially, this is just basically saying this is the same source, Chris String. It's not new information, but I want to see if they have heard anything else similar. Let me just share this with you guys, so you see what I'm looking at. Okay. Yeah, so this VGC article here, it's just talking about what literally I just said from Chris String from the GameIndustry.biz podcast. No developer I spoke to expects it, blah, blah, blah. I don't think any of us want a late launch for Switch 2 because we all want the new Nintendo console and everyone gets excited for it. And we don't want that crunch of Grand Theft Auto 6 and Switch and all that kind of stuff on top of each other. Having launched in March 2017, the Switch is in its 8th year. Okay, I don't care for that. Oh, I was hoping to see if maybe that VGC was going to say we heard something similar. It looks like this article is just pointing out what Chris String said. So I wouldn't say this is extra information. It's just regurgitating the same story. So if you saw the Chris String thing already, and then you saw the VGC article thinking that was piling on, me double checking here, no, it's just there's nothing extra. It's just talking about what Chris String said. So that's not a big deal. However, there is somebody that else that did say something. A couple people. I'm trying to pull up his quote here. There he is. Okay, I found him. So this is... All right, I got this. Okay, let me show you this. This is Takashi Mochizuki. He's a big deal. He said something as well that kind of, I guess, supports this information. All right. He's a reporter, works at Bloomberg. Very, very important person that knows things, apparently. There's an article from overseas and it tells next generation console will not be released this fiscal year. Indeed, at the beginning of this year, it was said that it could be released as early as March of next year, but recently, fewer people are considering March as a possibility. So, that's what he's saying. But there's someone else. Someone else is saying something too that I think is more on the positive side. It's not totally clear what's going on yet, by the way, right? People are saying things, but I'm going to get to it. I just want to pull this up first and read what's being said by this person. Let's see. I can't find him. There we go. Okay. All right. So Nate Drake from Family Board. Well, Nate Drake, Nate the Hate, Direct Feed Games, same person from everywhere. But they said a few things on Family Boards. They said it's not really new information. Most reports from earlier this year had phrased it as early 2025, and April-May would fall into that. I believe only one outlet reported March at the time. Nikkei even reported things as March at earliest months back. I think there are other articles that may have suggested March, but point is, yeah, I mean, and basically what he's saying is about right. But he also says, my opinion is still first half of 2025. Yeah. Come next week, upon Gamescom's conclusion, that opinion may change. So from this, you could be like, all right, well, if it still comes out April or May, not a big deal, right? Not a big deal. But here is where I have personal concerns, right? Something I didn't include when I was sharing what Mochizuki said is that he actually, someone asked him, where is it? There it is. Okay, I should just share this part too. Because visuals context matter, right? He first retweeted the article before giving his own thoughts, which I read earlier, with this just a smiling face thing, right? And the replies, Joseki, May, isn't it? Takashi, sad face. So there's not really much you can kind of take away from that, I guess, except for he's not evoking positive messages for the month of May. And you might say, you might interpret that from the perspective of, he's saying, like, I'm sad that we have to wait until May. You might look at it from that perspective. But when you consider that the original post, right, the top part of this post is a happy face about the report, then I don't know if, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think the sad face is indicating that we have to wait until May. I think it's the opposite. It's like, I don't think May is the month. Of course, it's just smiley face and sad face, right? But essentially, I think what Mochizuki's really getting at here is he thinks that the consoles is coming out during the fiscal year, and the beginning of the fiscal year is April and May. It could be later. So that's where I get concerned, especially because Chris Ring also talks about how some developers are hoping April and May. Hoping isn't hearing, being told, believing. It's optimism. Optimism because they don't know. So I get concerned thinking, oh, how much longer do we have to actually wait? Like April or May, not a big deal. But if we start talking about like even later, okay, that's kind of a big deal. That's a longer wait than I think is reasonable. Because Nintendo, like, let me say this, as I said it many times. We're currently going through a 4th year of declining sales. Yes, sales are strong for the 8th year of a console, but it is also still the 4th year of declining sales. And if the Nintendo Switch 2 doesn't come out till late into the next fiscal year, we're talking about a 5th year of declining sales. Now, ultimately, what matters the most is setting yourselves up for success for the future, but I just don't feel good about Nintendo kind of setting themselves up to have a 5th year of declining sales. But I guess, you know, they got to do what they got to do. But the question is, why are they in this position where they would have to wait that long? That's, to me, that just seems like a bit much. But once the console's out, the console's out, right? And it's just kind of getting to that point. Now, I'm not saying that the Switch 2 isn't going to come out, you know, is going to come out that late, right? Like later 2025 or 2026 is now some people are trying to argue, right? Because we do have what Nate Drake said, right? Like where he still thinks first half of 2025. I hope that's the case. And I mean, you know, I kind of hope that March 2025 is still the case, right? Like I don't think that's completely out of the question. Because these people that are saying these things have been wrong many times before. Something that people have been bringing up a lot lately is that a lot of these people were talking about how Tears of the Kingdom would be the last big game for the Switch. And now that we're kind of at where we're at now, by what stretch of the imagination is Tears of the Kingdom the last big Switch game? Now, Tears of the Kingdom is a huge game. It's one of the biggest Switch games there is. But what counts as a big Switch game, right? Like, do we count Mario Wonder? No, we can't, because even though it's sold over 10 million, that's not big enough. It's because it's 2D. It needs a more visual scope. Sales isn't the measure for a big game. Okay. Well, then what about Pikmin 4? Pikmin 4 came out just a couple months afterwards. I would qualify that from like an ambition perspective. Pikmin 4 is a pretty big deal game. It's a pretty strong showcase of Nintendo tech. It's a high quality game, and the sales are still pretty good. It sold, you know, multiple. I think it's at least at 3.5 million. I think climbing closer to 4. It's growing, right? That doesn't count either. Okay. What about the Zelda Echoes of Wisdom count? I mean, I guess you could put that in the same category as Mario Wonder. Mario Wonder is probably going to be a better seller than Echoes of Wisdom, but I don't know, because I look at all these mechanics that Echoes of Wisdom is showcasing. It's essentially kind of making good on that concept of the 2D Zelda prototype. Has a lot of that Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom feel. It may reach a huge audience as well. Does that not count? Okay. What about Pokemon Legends ZA? Pokemon Legends ZA, as far as Pokemon games go, the Legends games are pretty ambitious, has huge sales potential, and Legends ZA is likely going to be probably a better execution than Legends Arceus, because it's the second one. They're taking more time on it. Does that not count? Or how about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond? Because if it's not about sales, I mean, in terms of budget, time, scope, quality, that's all there. And Prime 4 may end up going down as a big seller. So, like, you have all these different games that have come out after Tears of the Kingdom or will be coming out after Tears of the Kingdom. What counts as a big game? I think the point is that they were just wrong about the Tears of the Kingdom thing. I think they were just kind of speculating with the assumption that Switch 2 would be coming out soon. I just kind of thought, yeah, Tears of the Kingdom's that last big deal game, and it was just wrong. And so, these people know things, but they don't know everything. And sometimes when they have some information, they'll make mental or logical leaps, and they might be right, but they also might be wrong. And so we look at some of the things that are being said today. A lot of it feels speculative, like informed speculation from what they've heard of friends in the industry or developers, but not like they know what's going to happen. So is that me trying to make the argument that Switch 2 is somehow launching this March? I don't know. Might be. I do kind of. There is a little bit of I want it to happen, right? So I'm looking for reasons to think that it could still happen, but we'll see how things actually kind of pan out, right? Especially because we have this thing from Brazil from just this weekend. Like, what's going on with that? And what's interesting about Brazil was the person who initially put out the reports about that Switch 2 delay earlier this year, where all these same people followed up and supported the same thing he said. But he's not saying that now. So it's just very interesting how things have changed. Yeah, it's interesting, right? I'm still trying to wrap my head around this stuff. But let me point out this super chat from Iron Templar. Thank you for the super chat, Iron Templar. Why not just discuss ideas for new Nintendo games instead of whatever boring rumors we have about Switch 2? Like a spin-off Metro game that plays like Battalion Wars or something creative like that. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a fun idea. But let me just point something out. First off, when the Switch 2 comes, like, that's going to be a completely different time. Like where we're at now and where we'll be at where the Switch 2 comes out, hopefully will be very different, right? That's what I kind of envision. But I don't just talk about Switch 2 rumors. That's just not true. Now, do I frequently discuss Switch 2? Absolutely. But this notion that it's like the only thing I talk about is just complete bogus. Literally today, we talked about dungeons and relations to the Dark World and such in Echoes of Wisdom. That was today's video. Yesterday, we talked about the Brazil rumor because that was the current news, right? We try and talk about the current news. There was also a Switch report from Universal Nintendo the day before, which we talked about with the fan and the charger, which are well-supported information, right? The day before that, we talked about Pokemon news, right? So it's not just all Switch 2, Zelda, Pokemon stuff, right? The day before that, we did a deep analysis of Zelda news because we got a whole bunch of updates on Friday. The day before that, someone I trust who knows many people in the industry, Paul Gale, said some cool things about the Switch 2 launch. So yeah, we talked about Switch 2 again. But that's because there was relevant news. The day before that, it was another Zelda topic. The day before that was about Monolith Soft and Xenoblade. The day before that, we had the Zelda trailer. So we analyzed that, right? And so, if there's news, I'm going to talk about it if it's interesting to me. And I do try and mix it up, right? But, I mean, actually, a few days ago, we talked about Pikmin. A couple weeks ago, we talked about Metro Prime 4. Talked about Twilight Princess. We talked about Kirby. Like, I try and talk about things. This all happened in the last couple weeks. So this notion that I only talk about Switch 2 is just not true. It just isn't. But is it a common topic? Absolutely, because it's an exciting topic. It should be. It's a new console. New hardware is always the most exciting topic for gamers. In terms of discussing like more unique ideas, right? I try them. I try and come up with unique things sometimes. Like a month ago, I try to talk about how Nintendo would combat the AI invasion. That video was the worst performing video of the year. It is what it is. But occasionally I try different things. I experiment. That's what you have to do as a creator, right? You got to try out different ideas and see what works. It's not going to always work. So, I'll try things. But also, like I said earlier, Channel's actually doing well right now. I'm not actually complaining. I'm just thinking, oh, can I survive with my personal situation? I don't know. But that's a personal me thing, right? But it is, your idea is fun. I would like to talk about more creative ideas, and sometimes I do, but I'm always willing to try more. Actually, I see Iron Templar. You have another super chat here. Let's check it out. Iron Templar with another super chat. Thank you. We don't need a Switch 2. We need Retro Studios to do better. Nintendo's too many IPs for Retro to not be making those games. That's Zero, Punch-Out, etc. Yeah. I think what's interesting about Retro Studios is that Retro Studios, a lot of us growing up that lived through the 90s, right? I'm a 90s kid. I was born in 91. And so I have early memories of Super Nintendo, but I really started playing games on the N64. And so I got to experience Rare at their prime, arguably, right? But going to the GameCube era, Nintendo lost Rare to Microsoft. And at the same time, they picked up Retro, right? Retro made Metroid Prime. And so Metroid Prime was an instant classic, one of the best games ever made. It started strong. 2 years later, Metroid Prime 2, fantastic. We didn't have to wait that much longer. Got Metroid Prime 3 in 2007. It was a great start. So that's wonderful. Like they did that stuff, right? But when you kind of look at what Rare did, they had so many games coming out during the 90s, right? Perfect Dark, Conquer, Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, Killer Instinct. There were so many amazing games. Their quantity was significant. I don't think Retro Studios was ever picked up with the thought that they would kind of make up for the fact that Rare was gone. They just weren't that kind of studio to begin with. But I do think a lot of us make those comparisons, though. That said, I still agree that Retro has not output enough games. But that's because they were going through something. You know, like they put out Tropical Freeze in 2014. And this is what, in the middle of the Wii U era, right? They were probably trying to get something out there. This is in between that transition from Wii U to Switch. And whatever it is they were working on never came out, unfortunately. And so they poured over Tropical Freeze in the Switch era in 2018. We get the Prime remaster in 2021. And now, you know, we have Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. No, Prime remaster came out, 2020, the beginning of 2023. That's off. And so they've been working on Prime 4 throughout most of the Switch era. And that's supposed to come out next year. They're getting better, but there was clearly a rough patch. Something was going on, and unfortunately, we haven't seen. There's like at least like one game, maybe two, that you could argue they could have done, but they didn't. Maybe we can attribute it to them trying new ideas, not knowing quite what to do next, and also them gearing up for, you know, higher expectations, because they were developing for GameCube for Wii for so many years, and then they had to get ready for HD development. And their first proper HD game was just a sequel to Donkey Kong Country Returns. I skipped that one from earlier, but the point is, yeah, like that's gearing up for HD development may have had something to do with Retro Studios' output, among other things. Anyway, what does Retro do after Metroid Prime 4? Well, I kind of just hope that they become the Metroid developer, but at the same time, doesn't mean they can't do other things, right? I think we've seen them continually hiring. The studio can expand. They've already been job listings suggesting that they're already hiring for another AAA project. Is that Metroid Prime 5, or is that something else? And they'll kind of develop Metroid Prime and something else at the same time. I think that's very feasible, right? You look at other, you know, Nintendo studios like Monolith Soft. They have three different like studios. Like they're making multiple games at once or co-developing multiple games at once. So I think Retro can eventually get to the point where they're working on two games at once. They would have to expand their team, right? They have to grow. But hopefully, with this investment Nintendo's putting into them right now, and hopefully success of Metroid Prime 4, that becomes the case, and they do start putting out games for other Nintendo IP. Maybe F-Zero, maybe Punch-Out, Star Fox, Kid Icarus. There's a lot of options that I think if they were to invest their efforts into it, they could do a really good job. For sure. Let's see. Where are we at here? Brandon has messaged me. Is this him telling me he ain't coming on? Oh, he was going to come on, and then his power went out again. That's sad. That's sad. Rip to Brandon's power. RNL asks me, since Mickey Rush is coming, do you think we'll hear anything about a new SpongeBob game from the THQ Nordic and Purple Lamp? I just don't know much about that, you know? I wish I could tell you more, but that's not something I know too much about. But I'm assuming, if Mickey Verbrush does well, I would assume that they would want to continue doing more projects, right? We are still in the middle of a transition from Switch to Switch 2, so maybe they want to get their next project ready for Switch 2, but it also could be cross-gen, potentially, depending on what it is. Retro Cheats asks me, if the Switch 2 comes out in June, do you think we'll have any major Switch 1 games early 2025? I guess it depends on what you define as major. Like, I don't think. I could see maybe Pokemon Legends ZA, right? Maybe coming out like May or June. But I kind of think that both Prime 4 and Legends ZA are coming out in 2025, and they'll come out during the Switch 2 window. Metroid Prime 4 more so. I don't think it's a coincidence that Metroid Prime 4 is coming out in 2025. I don't think it's just because that's when the game will be ready. I think it does tie into Switch 2. I know some people disagree with that, but there were rumors Prime 4 was going to come out this year, and there were also rumors that Switch 2 would come out this year, and yet both didn't happen, right? So I think it's because Switch 2 is coming out in 2025, and all of a sudden Prime 4 is coming out in 2025. I've always been kind of on the cross-gen train, so I maintain that one. I think we wait till after Switch 2 releases before Prime 4 comes out. But Legends ZA, that's up for debate. Now, we have gotten recent information based off the trading card game set releases. It seems to further support the idea that Legends ZA is not going to be an early 2025 release, but could it still come out in the first half? That's debatable. So maybe that, right? There are rumors of a Kirby game, and we've seen a lot of Kirby games come out February or March in prior years. So that could be there could be something like that. I don't really think of Kirby as a big game. If it's a 3D Kirby game like Forgotten Land, yeah. But if we're talking about another 2D Kirby game or a remaster or a spin-off, I don't know if I'd qualify that as a big game. But it might still sell a couple million, so it's a good game to come out. Perspectives there, right? There's the long-rumored Fire Emblem remake. They could fit that in there. I kind of look at the first half of Switch 1 next year, like the first half 2025 games, if assuming we have to wait till June, which I don't know. I would say that it'll probably feel very similar to this year's first half, where it's pretty much just remakes and remasters. We already got Donkey Kong Country this January. That's kind of what I think for the first half. Assuming we have to wait that long. I'm still optimistic we don't have to wait that long. But we'll see. Something I want to kind of reiterate, that I haven't talked about it yet for this live stream, but I had this realization maybe a week or so ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, where Nintendo's told us that they're going to make an announcement for the Switch 2 before the end of the fiscal year. So before March 31st, 2025. Technically, that's already an announcement. They've announced that they're going to make an announcement. So I think it'd be really, really weird and dumb if it turns out this announcement is just another tweet about some basic element of it, right? I feel like this announcement has to be like a teaser trailer, right? That's I think that's a pretty reasonable expectation. And so with that in mind, it could happen at any point this fiscal year. It could happen next month. It could happen in October. It could happen in March. Sure. But let's operate under the assumption that we don't get this teaser trailer until the very end of the fiscal year, so March, right? If that's the case, if Nintendo's handling this anything like how they handled Switch 1, where they had the teaser trailer on October 20th, and the console launched March 3rd, that's a 19-week window, 4.5 months. Assuming we get this teaser trailer at the very, very end of March, which I also think is unlikely. I think maybe early March or even before that, but assuming it's at the very end of March, let's count the months. All of April, all of May, all of June, all of July, halfway through August. That's 4.5 months, right? That's kind of the latest I sort of think the Switch 2 would come based off what Nintendo has told us. But that's assuming two things. One, their announcement of an announcement isn't just something stupid. Like, oh, well, yeah, the console's coming out later this year in a tweet, and then we'll talk more about it later. Like, if that's all they announced that they would say, that would be weird. But it's not out of the question, totally. So that's one assumption. The other assumption is that they would actually have a similar reveal to release window like the Switch. It could be shorter, it could be longer. But why would it be? That I'm uncertain of. You could make the argument that they will want to reveal the console in a teaser trailer around the time they start to really get into gear when it comes to actually manufacturing the console, because they want to control the messaging and not have the console leak out so people are looking at photos of the console and everything before Nintendo's even told us. So if that's the case, then and they also want to have more stock ready this time around, then maybe they'll have a longer reveal to release window. But by how much? 6 months? 6 months is okay. That would only be a month and a half longer. I think that would be fine. But how much longer do we think then, right? Because so let's say it's 6 months and they decide to give us a teaser at the very end of March, like the last day. That would still put us towards the end of September, right? At that point, we're approaching holiday. But that's assuming that instead of 19 weeks, they go the full on 6 months and they do the teaser at the very end of the fiscal year, like literally the end, which I think both scenarios are kind of unlikely. So I don't think we have to wait that long for Switch 2. I will also add, though, that based off what Nate the Hate said on Family Boards, Gamescom is coming up. Some information may come from that will hopefully give us more clarity on when we should expect to see more of this, right? Or within the next couple weeks, perhaps we see what Brazil's been referring to, and if some of that materializes, that may give us some more optimism of a reveal sooner than later. We'll see. Demonic Brawler adds me. What's up, buddy? I got a theory about the Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I think maybe Zelda will be blamed for the rifts. It looks like she's in jail when she shows up, and also explain wanted posters. So, I don't know if you've seen this. Let me go to something here. So, how many of you guys have seen the website? There's a lot of information on the website. And there's something cool they show. Oh, it's right there, actually. That's fine. I'll get to it in a moment. There's something they show here. Wait, no. I'm in the wrong place. My bad. They don't show it here. Do they show it? Where do they show it? Is it here? Oh, it's here. So pay attention here, right? You see the rifts appearing over the castle. And you're going to see the King of Hyrule pushing Zelda away from the rift, and then him and his attendants are all sucked in and turn into gray statues. So the people in power are gone. Totally gone. So then who is the one calling the shots? Right? Let me share you this video instead. Well, if I pick it from, well, I don't know. It might be easier to just share it like this. One moment. Share screen, window. Here we go. Okay. Let me lower the background music here. Okay, hopefully this isn't lagging. I don't think it's lagging. Okay, it's probably a little bit better. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's lagging. Oh, it's kind of bothering me though. There's something they show here towards the end of the trailer. Right? So we see this, the rift appearing. And then look at that. These bokoblins just appear out of nowhere. You can see this purple circle. Like I thought they were coming out of the rifts, but it almost looks like they're coming out of the sky as the rifts appear. Now, it probably could be because the rifts are appearing, but there is a dark force that is coming from these rifts. I think, what else will she have to contend with? Who's she contending with? Contend is an interesting choice of word. So I think there's something going on there. I think it's hard to say why Zelda is wanted. It does explain why she's in jail in the beginning, though, right? But who put her in jail is interesting. Is it this force that she's contending with that's from this rift world? Maybe the dark world? Is there some sort of evil force at hand there? Because we have debated that maybe the Ganon that Link is fighting in the beginning, the first trailer, is maybe still Ganon, but being puppeteered, controlled. So who is that? Could they be the ones that are really the reason why that there's these wanted posters out there? It's tough to say, but I kind of feel like it definitely has to do with that. I think they're probably, if there's like some sort of intelligence behind this, which I'm kind of assuming there is, I'm going to say that they're behind it in some way. They're pulling the strings and they want to capture Zelda. Because if you capture Zelda, you have all the pieces of the Triforce. They may be trying to collect the Triforce pieces here. They may already have Ganon under control. They got Link. So now all they need is Zelda. And so they're trying to capture her. There might be something to that idea. Taker610 with a super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Here, Taker says SMD64's video makes it sound like the Switch would be much more powerful than the Steam Deck. Maybe the rumored T239 chip was the Switch Pro chip. I haven't seen Sumer Day's recent video. I will tell you this. I haven't been looking at the most recent conversations regarding specs. But from what I have seen, maybe there are some things about the Switch 2 that are similar to the Steam Deck. But the way I look at it is, you kind of can't look at raw numbers and just sort of assume it's going to operate the same way, because there's a lot of other factors. The Steam Deck is a very flexible system that can play all sorts of things. You don't have as many games being finally, optimized for the console, right? And then also there are going to be different bells and whistles that Nintendo will have. You're going to have newer architecture involved, and all of these different elements are going to cause a lot of differences. We're going to see things like DLSS, which I think a lot of people probably have a hard time quantifying of how much a difference it's going to make, but it's going to make some difference. It's going to improve things there. It's going to allow the Switch 2 to punch higher than what you might think its weight would suggest. So the phrasing I like to use is overall visual impact. And what I anticipate for the Switch 2 is that the overall visual impact is going to be far beyond the Steam Deck. It's going to be beyond the PS4. I think it's going to be hitting the ballpark of current gen consoles, but just on the low end. Close enough. That's kind of what I anticipate. We obviously don't know, and we're not going to know until the system comes out. And truth be told, even when the system comes out, there may still be some debate, because there will be some games that will come out and we're going to think, wow, that looks amazing. And there'll be other games that are like, wow, that looks like doo-doo. What were they doing? And it could just be a case of poor optimization, great optimization. But for me, the way I look at it is, I play games like Pikmin 4, Astral Chain, Metroid Prime Remastered on my Switch, and I think, wow, those games look incredible. They look great. I am satisfied with how they look. I enjoy them. And then I also think about what a lot of different people have said about how the third-party support is going to be. If that's the case, I think we're going to be fine. Now, my biggest concern is how will AAA third-party games look? If they look like blurry doo-doo messes, I'm not going to be playing them on my Switch 2. I'll play them on my PlayStation 5 or PC, right? But I kind of think that for the most part, it's going to be fine. I just think that's how it's going to be. I'm currently playing Elden Ring on my PS5, but I know it's not really a system pusher. But the game still looks stellar. The Switch 2 games look like that. That's going to be incredible. I think I'm not too worried about it. I think they're going to do a good job. I know that some people are concerned about the Switch 2's power, but I think we're always concerned. There is always concerns. I remember with the Switch back in 2016 when we had the rumors about, is it going to be a hybrid? Is it going to be a home console? And there's that debate. I was thinking that it kind of needed to be a home console because there would be no way they could do a hybrid right. Because I didn't think the hardware was there yet. I didn't think we had the technology to do that right at an affordable price. But once Nintendo showed off the Switch in that first look trailer, and we saw Breath of the Wild running on the system for the first time, all my concerns were alleviated. That trailer did a legendary job because it showed us this game we had been anticipating for such a long time that was the most technically impressive Nintendo game to date that we were all in awe of. And they showed it running just as good as we had seen prior, but on a hybrid console. You could take it on the go, still looks and runs great. You play it at home, still looks and runs great. And then they showed other things like Skyrim and NBA 2K, and it came with this promise of us getting third-party games like that. We got those games. I still think there is a lot of third-party things that could have been better on Switch, but there was certainly more support than we've seen in a very long time, and definitely a major improvement. And I kind of imagine the Switch 2 is going to be even better, especially when we account for diminishing returns. Yeah, PS5 games are going to look a lot better that are made for PS5 or even third-party platforms. They're going to look and run better on that console. But is it going to look so much better that we're going to feel like we're playing a tremendously gent version and it's not worth it playing it on Switch 2? That's what remains to be seen. But I kind of gather that it's not going to be as bad as it was for Switch. And we'll see if it's close enough for enough people to care more about just having the portability factor as opposed to the visual fidelity factor being at the max, if they can bridge that gap enough. So I'm optimistic. It'd be nice if Nintendo actually told us about the console and showed us some footage so we could have an idea, a real good idea, you know? Let's see here. Joycey J, been a member for a couple months now. Joycey says, does Switch 2 play Zelda? I'm asking the tough questions. That is a tough question, Joycey. Because I don't know if it's going to play Zelda. I really don't. But I believe it will. With a great degree of confidence, I'm going to say that Switch 2 will play Zelda, like a 99.99% confidence. I think so. Like backwards compatibility is, I think most people are in agreement it's probably going to happen. I think maybe, obviously I know your question's a joke, right? But how long are we going to have to wait before we have to play some sort of new Zelda experience on the Switch 2? I would say within the first couple years, we'll have something. Now, if you account for maybe like a Breath of the Wild 4K, I think that could happen within the first year. I don't know if I even want to count Breath of the Wild 4K because I'm not even excited about that. That doesn't excite me because I've been playing I still play Breath of the Wild now. 4K is nice, but it's not going to change my world. It's like, all right, cool. It looks a little sharper. Great. I don't know if I want to spend $70 for this though. So, it'll be great for those that want it if that's what happens. But not counting something like that, I think within the first 2-ish years, we'll have something that feels new. Maybe that Ocarina of Time remake I keep talking about, which would technically be a remake, but I think there'll be a newness factor to it. Some new elements, huge visual overhaul. Arnold asks me, do you see Mario riding Yoshi in the reveal? You bet I do. Well, I could see Yoshi not being ridden in something that's revealed later. Kind of like how they revealed Cappy, not initially, right? That reveal trailer may only have a few quick seconds, but dude, give me 7 seconds of Mario riding Yoshi, and visually it looks like stellar. Like the camera's up close to Yoshi and Mario, kind of like panning behind the shoulder, and you see this huge vista of the greatest realized like video game world of Mario. And it's kind of like this implication you can just kind of do whatever you want in this massive world. Like that's gonna be hype, It's gonna be hype. So if we get something like that, I'll be bouncing off walls. Yeah. RNL asks me, do you think this game takes place before the Hyrule Warriors game? Echoes of Wisdom? I don't. Hyrule Warriors is not canon, so are you talking about Age? If you mean Age of Calamity, I mean, Hyrule Warriors, like the original, is like it's an amalgamation of a whole bunch of different Zelda worlds, right? So I just kind of look like I don't want to say it's fake, right? Because it's a different continuity. Let's look at it like that, right? Kind of like how Dragon Ball has different continuities. You choose to kind of enjoy which, or Star Wars, there's a whole bunch, or different like Marvel things, and there's so many things that have multiple continuities. You could look at it like that. Now, Age of Calamity technically takes place before the events of Breath of the Wild and Tears. I don't know if it falls in the official timeline, which is a whole other bag of worms. But regardless, I would say Echoes of Wisdom takes place well before any of the events in Breath or Tears, like not even close, right? Not 100 years. We're talking about thousands of years before that game. Like many generations where there's no ancestor that's alive or anything like that. It's an ancestor, okay, ancestor, yes, but like no one. There's not one person that's going to span both games, right? Like Impa's alive in the past and in the current time of Breath of the Wild. You're not going to have anyone like that in Echoes of Wisdom. Like everyone there is a completely different generation by many generations, to be clear. I'm scrolling through the chat here. I see a couple super chats. I'm going to get into those in a moment. There's a couple of things I said earlier that I never got a chance to get to. Brolin added me earlier. Every single Nintendo console has come out in the summer, fall in North America, except for Switch. What does this mean for Switch 2 since we are coming off such a high success with the Switch? I mean, there's handhelds that have come out early in the year, right? So, I don't know. I think really what it comes down to, it's not so much what month in the year. It's really more so about when they're ready to hit the ground running and really maximize momentum and excitement for the console. That's what I think matters. I think we get too caught up in the months. I don't think that matters that much. I think it matters a little bit because there are times of the year where people are more likely to make purchases. In March, people gather their tax returns and stuff. It's enough time after the holidays. Like, it's not like in January where people are done buying things, right? But it's enough time afterwards where people are kind of ready to start buying more things. So it kind of makes sense there. I mean, I don't see why things can't work in the summer, right? Obviously, the holidays, that's what a lot of people save up for the holidays to start making a lot of purchases. But you could also argue that maybe you want to have a build up leading up to the holidays, kind of get that word of mouth out there, having people already owned the console. So I kind of I understand their advantages at different points in time, but for the most part, I think it just comes down to whenever they are ready, hit the ground running, do as well as you can. Anyway, I decided to take a peek at kind of like just the launch of different Nintendo consoles. I see that the NES came out in July in North America. Right, the Super Nintendo came out in November. N64 came out in summer, right, in North America. GameCube came out September. Nintendo Wii came out in November. Wii U came out in November. Game Boy, I want a month. This page isn't telling me months. Well, Game Boy Advance came out March, so that's an interesting thing that happened. Nintendo DS was a November release. Nintendo 3DS, I feel like it was February. So if you look at handhelds, it's a little bit more mixed, right? We've seen some earlier releases for handhelds, and the Switch 2, Switch 1, they're handhelds, they're hybrids. So I don't know if we can really be like, yeah, this is the pattern of hardware releases. I think they're all options, really. I think earlier, summer, holiday, they all happen. But I guess what we can glean by looking at kind of the release dates for different Nintendo systems is that there have been several that have come out during the summer. So maybe they can do that again. All right, coming back to the super chats here. Free Metroid Hat with a super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Free Metroid Hat. If we get any other hunters in Prime 4, which of the hunters do you want to see the most? Well, the hunters in Prime 3 are dead. I was always a fan of Rundus, but he's dead. Now, looking at the others, I don't know if I have like a big attachment to them. I don't even remember their names. I kind of have to look them up. I'm looking them up right now. I'm trying to find like a list of all their names. There's one that pops out to me. Is it Weevil? Yeah, Weevil. I think Weevil's the red one with the sniping ability. No, that's not. Weevil is the one with the energy claw, which is cool. Who's the one that has the? I mean, honestly, Noxus is also another cool one too. I think they're all cool. Really. I don't even know which one's the red sniper one, but I kind of want to see him. Whatever his name is. I don't even know. Oh, is it Trace? Am I going to get it wrong again? Nope, Trace is it. That's the one I was looking for. Trace looks crazy cool. Um, yeah. Actually, let me show you guys. In case for those that are unfamiliar with the hunters from Metroid Prime Hunters, like there were some cool designs. Like this is Trace. Like I think Trace is cool. Right? Like there was this image shows kind of a lot of them, right? Yeah. There's a whole bunch. There's all of them right there. There were 7 of them. They all look cool. The only ones that I kind of feel like are duds is maybe this guy, I guess. Although I'm sure someone like loves him. This is another art right here. Get a better look at a lot of the hunters. Candon, Trace, Spire, Silux, Noxus, Weevil. That's actually a good look. Yeah, I mean, Trace looks like something that could. So when I kind of think about like Metroid Prime 4 multiplayer, I've kind of, one of the ideas I've sort of speculated on is imagine a multiplayer where it's you are a hunter and then there's the hunted, right? So imagine you choose a hunter, right, and you have to hunt a federation group, right? So you have a team of people, right? So imagine it's like 1v4, right? You have a squad of federation hunters, you play online and you're stuck inside this like this derelict space frigate or what have you, right? And in the middle of space, very alien vibes, except you're being hunted by one of these hunters. And imagine playing as Trace, right, where you're on the hunter team. It's just you. You're a lot more powerful than these Federation troopers, right? And you're playing online, and you can choose to be the hunter. You're crawling through like the grates. You break through. You snatch one of the team members up, and you destroy them, right? And there's 3. It's a survival game. Like that's cool, right? And then like I think like this would be a cool concept. And if you want to bring back all the hunters, do it. But really, what I want are for them to come up with new hunter designs. Like you want to bring back old ones, cool. Or better yet, maybe they have some hunters from the get go, but the multiplayer. Well, this is all assuming there's multiplayer, right? Has DLC, and the DLC are bringing back these hunters, right? That would be neat. Heck, if you can bring back the hunters from Prime 3 and just completely ignore the fact that they died, sure, why not? I don't care if it's multiplayer. Maybe you could have some sort of story reason, like they're spiritual successors that have the same suit or something. You could do something like that, maybe. So it'd be cool to do that. I think it'd be really fun. Sam Talks Games with a super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Sam. The super chat, Sam. Thank you for the super chat, Sam. Thank you. I appreciate it. Assuming these reports are accurate, are you assuming an April, May Switch 2 release, or perhaps later on, like September, November? I'm still trying to wrap my head around all this stuff. I am concerned about this hopeful April, May thing because I feel like we've been down this road before, But also at some point, things gotta happen. Things need to happen. And as I explained earlier, Nintendo's already told us officially that before the end of the fiscal year, we're getting a real announcement, right? So, if you want me to tell you my honest opinion, we are not waiting till holiday. I guess I could see, like in my opinion, absolute latest is October, which is basically holiday. But I feel like October is like stretching everything to the absolute maximum, right? Like going back to what I talked about earlier, assuming they don't make the announcement until the very end of the fiscal year, the last day of the fiscal year, and they have a 6+ month window from reveal to release. Reminder, the Switch was only 4.5. And why would Nintendo wait till March 31st to give us the teaser trailer? I just don't think that would be the case. So really, I think what we're looking at is sometime between March and June. I've been wrong before, but that's kind of what I think. Doesn't have to be March, but I really hope it's March, because if it's March, that means we get a reveal this year. If it's not March, then they can wait till next year. They can. If the console's coming out in May, I could see them waiting till like late January to tease the console, even February. Have a shorter reveal to release window, which would just be absolute torture for me as a creator, because in terms of new Nintendo things to talk about, I'll have Donkey Kong Country Returns, a game that came out in 2010. That's what I'll have to talk about. So I would hate that as a content creator that talks about Nintendo news. But once they show it off, it's not going to matter. It's going to be so hype and exciting. I mean, in the meanwhile, like, I am happy about the games I have to play. Like the Echoes of Wisdom stuff, great, right? I'm gonna have fun with Mario and Luigi. I'm gonna enjoy Jamboree. I will note Nintendo has done some interesting things, like I don't, what's the game, Bakudu, the game that's been in Japan for years, now being localized with a little bit of extra content. So that's neat. It's coming in September. That's something. And there are some people who are theorizing that there's going to be another Nintendo game that launches in November. I'm going to do some research on that. Not sure. But that's something else to consider. Darcy added me earlier. What games have you been playing? Lately, I've been playing Elden Ring, and I've been playing Smash Brothers. That's it. I need to get back to Paper Mario, but I haven't. I've been more enthralled by Elden Ring's DLC, so that's what I've been playing. And Smash, I've been on Smash. I love Smash. I'm playing more Smash with my friends lately, and I'm kind of been like, oh, like Pyra and Myth are my mains, and I don't want to act like I'm good at Smash, because I know how competitive it is. I've tried playing online. It's pretty ruthless. I'm a better Mario Kart and Pokemon player than I am a Smash player. I know that I could, if I get lucky, I could probably if I train and dedicate all my time and effort, if I get a little lucky, I can place really high at Worlds in Pokemon, right? Because I've won Pokemon tournaments before, right? Competitive tournaments, right? And I've been high up in the rankings before. In Mario Kart, I know I can win online because I do it, right? Not all the time, right? But I can do it. In Smash Brothers, I play a match online, I get bodied most of the time. I get that. But amongst my friends, amongst family members, whenever someone plays me in person, I usually win. So I haven't felt that much of a need to be like, oh, I got to try and get better. But anyway, I guess lately I've been just kind of on this train of, well, you know what? What if I did try to get better, right? Like Pyra and Myth are my mains, but I'm really only good with Pyra, not Mythra. And so I'm trying to like study it up a little bit, right? Get better with Mythra. I've realized some cool like little tricks that I didn't do before. So yeah, I've been playing a bit more Smash lately and Elden Ring. That's pretty much it. I might pick up MU at the end of this month, but I'm thinking I might wait until Echoes of Wisdom before another game purchase. Although there is this other game I've been meaning to get. It's Helldivers 2. I've been thinking about picking up Helldivers 2 and playing with a couple of friends and my cousin. So I've been sitting on that one. I haven't bought it yet, but I kind of been meaning to. Hello there, Spiromancer. Hello there, Super Chris. I see your Iron Templar said this. By the way, I wasn't implying that you only do Switch 2 videos. I was referring to the YouTube community as a whole. I see way too many thumbnails about Switch rumors and whatnot. Yeah, I didn't think you were necessarily being rude or try to imply I only make Switch 2 videos, but I do see comments where people are like, oh, you only do Switch 2 videos. Like yesterday's video, I put that and I saw a couple comments of that. I was like, bro, I literally just made like multiple Pokemon, Zeda Blade, and Zelda videos, but you're accusing me of only making Switch 2 videos when this is all new information. But I also understand that, you may, as a consumer, right, as a viewer, you might see all the content creators kind of focus on Switch 2 because it is a trending topic, right? It's trending. I think it's trending for a reason, though, because I think the majority of Nintendo fans want to talk about that the most It is what I want to talk about the most because I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for new hardware. I think Nintendo's been taking a very, very long time to move on. If this news is true and we're not even waiting until March, but even later, like beyond May, like we're talking about summer or even holiday next year, I know I'm not saying it's the end of the world for Nintendo. Might be the end of the world for me as a Nintendo content creator. But I do feel like at that point Nintendo is taking too long to transition to the next generation, and something went wrong. They got to do what they got to do to find success, but if we have to wait like that long, I think it is bad. I think 8.5 years for a system is a long time. And, we talk about Switch 2. I hope we don't have to wait another 8.5 years for a new console. If there was a Switch Pro, okay, then maybe we could have had this conversation of having an 8.5 year generation. But there was no Switch Pro. That did not happen, right? You look at Sony and Microsoft, they have their mid-gen refreshes. Nintendo, I mean, they have revisions, but they don't up the like things from a tech, performance perspective. So I really think it'd be bad on them to take that long. I still think they could be successful. I'm not saying they won't be successful. I just think it's just not good for the current period of time. Yeah. Sam Talks Games is another super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Sam. With this Switch 2 presumptive delay, I believe the slate is clear for a March launch for Prime 4 on Switch. Again, keep up the good content, man. As much as I want a cross-gen version of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and I still think that's what we're going to get, and it's going to come out after Switch 2 launches, if Prime 4 comes out March, I'll be okay with that. Because guess what? I get to play Metroid Prime 4 in March. That's not that long from now. And that means they'll be giving us a lot of news about this game very soon. So I'm all for that if that's what's happening. I do not think that's what's happening because I think they're saving it for Switch 2. But I will not complain if that's what's happening. It's the same kind of deal like with Prime 4 coming out. A lot of people are talking about Prime 4 coming out the holiday. I never thought that was... Well, I'm not saying I never. I was always leaning towards not. It's not what I wanted. But if it's what happened, I would have been okay with it. Same deal here. If that's what happens, totally okay with it. And I mean, it could happen. If Nintendo needs another big release, that's kind of a big game. Kind of a big deal. I think they're kind of ruining the potential success for Prime 4 by doing that. I know some people disagree with what I just said, but, whatever they do, I'm fine with it. I'm going to play it. I'm going to enjoy the game. It'll sell a few million regardless. It'll still be somewhat successful. There was a chat I was looking for that I saw earlier. I've been kind of trying to scroll through and find it. Haven't found it yet. Maybe, I don't know, I might just have to give up on it. I've been trying to look for it. I think I kind of like, scan, I was scanning through, right? Skimmed is the word I was looking for. I was skimming through while I was reading and finding other people while skimming and seeing other things. And I saw some things that I wanted to address. And I didn't, I don't know where it is now, so can't find it anymore. But anyways, what I can tell you what for that person that asked, right? I don't know exactly what you asked me because I can't find the chat anymore. But if you're still listening, right? Basically, I think someone was asking me about being on the Nintendo Prime's podcast. I'm not going to be on his podcast for at least a few weeks, just because that's not my job. And I, especially with how things are right now, as a content creator, I kind of have to prioritize like my own job. And positioning myself with my living circumstances and being able to make it to when Switch 2 is eventually revealed, I guess, right? So in other words, I can't afford to spend 2 to 3, 4 hours committed every Wednesday, at least right now while I get things situated. But, Nate and I are good. I'm going to be back on his show at some point, right? And he can come on my show too. He normally streams during this time, so that's why I don't normally have him on. But yeah, for those curious, right? If you don't see me on Nate's show over the next few weeks, that's why. Just because I got my own things to handle. That's pretty much it. So there's that. Johnny Hernandez is saying that there's a game like Helldivers is free to play on PS5. It's called First Descendant. Interesting. I'll have to keep that in mind. Is that my notebook here? No. Where is my notebook? I'm nothing without my notebook. I'll keep it in mind. First Descendants. I'll check it out. Cool. I have it up here. I'll check it out. Vain God asks you, are you feeling the low revenue that other Nintendo YouTubers are feeling? Again, I don't know if I want to put myself in the same category as Beat 'em Ups or Game Explain or RGT85. Those creators. Game Explain was kind of big before the Switch 1 boon, but a lot of these creators hit it huge or large when Switch came out. I'm not that, right? I've done YouTube since Switch came out, but I did it like, a video every once in a while, like once a week, right? Or twice a week. And then, over time then I started doing like 3 videos a week, 4 videos a week, right? And then I would do I became more consistent over the years, right? But I didn't start making it as a YouTuber till last year, really. Because that's when I decided to go at it full time at the beginning of last year, and then the Tears of the Kingdom kind of boom, right? Like where I was at during the Tears of the Kingdom rush, I was like, oh, okay, I could do this as a career, right? Like actually, right? Like I was doing better as a content creator last year, covering Tears of the Kingdom stuff and just Nintendo overall than I was as my prior job. But then things slowed down, but there was a talk of Switch 2, so I was like, all right, we can bridge the gap a little bit. And then this year has been kind of like, kind of rough. But I'm also, in a lot of ways, doing better than I thought I ever could have last year, right? So I actually, like, all things considered, because there hasn't, like, with the whole Switch 2 thing not really being a thing in mind, right? Like, I feel like I'm doing pretty good, like, all things considered, for, like, where we're at in terms of Nintendo, right? Like, everyone's kind of complaining about views. I'm not complaining about views right now. I think the channel is doing pretty well. In a post Tears of the Kingdom world, I feel pretty good about where we're at right now. There are times it's worse, there are times it's better. But, I think we're pretty good. So that, yeah, I'm fine, in terms of like where I think I should be at right now. But also where the market's at right now and my living expenses worth where I live, there is a mismatch there, right? Because I'm not that big of a creator right now. I wouldn't say I'm raking in dough. I think a lot of people think content creators are huge, like famous, rich. We're not, right? We're not. There's a lot of people, like, if I got like a typical 4-year degree job, I would probably be making more than what I'm doing now. But it's kind of more of an investment in what I think is going to make me happy long term, right? I rather do what I enjoy. I rather work for myself, right? I rather have the freedom and liberty to make my own schedule, have the mobility as well as a creator. Like all those things matter more to me, right? Being able to talk about Nintendo, come up with theories, analyze things. To me, that's what I enjoy, right? That's something I can envision doing for years to come and building on that. So, uh, yeah, I'm happy with where I'm at. But I just have to figure out how to get to the next level. But I'm not really worried. Like I am worried, but I'm not disappointed with my success. I'm not complaining about my views. I think I've gotten great views for where I'm at and circumstances. Having Hope asked me, how's Ruby this evening? She's good. She's just sleeping. She's just chilling. Actually, a couple days ago, she caught a lizard. And the thing is, here in Miami, there's a few different invasive species lizards. They're all over the place. Like I came like 4 years ago, and there was none like this, and now there's a whole bunch of lizards with the curved tails with different colors. They did not exist before. I grew up here in Miami, and I left. I came back, and there's a whole bunch of new lizard species all over the place. I'm not sure what she caught because it was smaller, but it may have been one of those invasive species, just younger. Not super certain on that one. But she caught a lizard, and she was running around the house with the lizard. And I don't want to let her eat a lizard because they could be toxic. And also, I didn't want the lizard to die. I wanted to live. This is the second time this happened. She's caught a lizard that got inside the house. And so I kind of grabbed her by the mane to have her let go. She did. And then I went to catch the lizard, but she caught it first with her claw. And when I lifted her claw, I had like a napkin where I got the lizard. Right? I saw some blood. So I was like, oh, she sliced that lizard. And so I took the lizard, put it out in the front, and I saw that it was bleeding from its neck. So I was very upset. I couldn't look at my cat the same for a little bit. But then it looked a couple hours later, the lizard was gone. So maybe the lizard survived, or maybe it got eaten. I am not sure. Anyways, I'm not mad at Ruby because she's a cat. Instinctively, that is what she's supposed to do. She is going to hunt small little critters, bugs, lizards. They get into the house, she's hunting them. So yeah, I mean, she's just doing her job, right? The cat's not unethical. That's just what cats do. They're hunters. I just feel bad for the lizard. Kevin D, yeah, you're probably right. Another cat probably got it. Another cat. Ruby did the work for that cat. The cat was like just loafing around. I was like, ooh, free food. Yeah. I give Ruby plenty of food though, so she's good. Yeah, I don't Sunrise, I don't let my cat outdoors. She's an inside cat. I protect her. I mean, she's a purebred Abyssinian. Like, she's not a. First off, I personally don't like the idea of letting any cat outside at all, right? But like, yeah, no, I pamper her like she's an inside cat. I do, however, sometimes I carry her. I'll walk outside. I have a leash for her, but I've never gotten her used to it. Like I'll let her come on the patio with me and stuff. But I don't let her out by herself at all. And I am concerned about letting her go into like the grass and stuff like that because there could be other animals. She could get sick. So I don't do that, but I'll let her come out a little bit with me, supervised, where it's clean and safe, and otherwise she's inside. Yeah. And she's not like a dog. Like she's she's very dog-like for a cat. She's extremely social, playful. She'll play catch and stuff like that. Well, she'll play the catch where she goes and catches it, but she's not going to bring it back. She's going to run around with it, like a ball or a toy. But she's unlike a dog in a lot of ways because she is a cat, right? She's not going to bolt outside if you open the door, but she might be curious, right? So if I leave the door open, she might sniff around a little bit too much. So like if she's left unattended, she might get stuck outside or something, right? So, I still have to keep a watchful eye on her, I wouldn't leave her alone with my grandmother, for example. For the record, I caretake my grandmother's house right now. For now. those circumstances may be changing soon. As she gets older, they may want to put her in a home. So we'll see. But yeah, Ruby's good. Arno, I like your bingo cards and how many slots will you have for this direct? I don't even know what kind of direct we're going to get right now, right? I don't think we're getting a big general in September, but we'll see. You know, we'll do some. I think I do like doing the bingo cards. They're fun. I just kind of have to wrap my head around about what's coming next. There's a lot of stuff, rumors and reports popping up right now, and still not quite sure what's actually going to happen. Netweed 09. I've already put my neck in front of Sephiroth and stated Prime 4 will hit 10 million. Will you find me on the edge of SR3888 about to explode if it doesn't? You will find me. Okay. I wish you the best of luck. But I believe in Prime 4 as well. Vain God asks me, would you recommend being a YouTuber as a career? See, that's tough, right? Like, it's kind of like if I said no, it would be a little hypocritical, right? Because that's what I'm doing. I'm pursuing it as a career. But I think it is smart to have backup plans, right? And I think it's also smart to be realistic. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying don't pursue your dreams. No, if this is what you want, you try it, pursue it. But also do your best to live a healthy lifestyle, right? And be open-minded. So if it's something you want to try, I absolutely recommend you give it a try, you know? But you also kind of have to act accordingly, right? You start YouTube right now, assuming you're starting from scratch, you're probably not going to make any money. And you may not make money for years, or you may not make substantial money for years. It kind of depends. You may find success early on. And you may come to realize you don't actually like the lifestyle of making videos all the time. You know, there's a lot of creators that get lucky and find a lot of success. And after a certain point in time, they're like, you know what? I don't really want to do this anymore, right? You see a lot of YouTubers kind of burn out because it's not for everyone, you know? I think it's kind of like, for example, I studied acting and I like acting. I enjoy it. But also, I didn't like everything that came with it. And I didn't like the overall environment. So, and, you know, I kind of preferred other things. So I shied away from that. So, you know, you got to give these things a try, though, and see what you want. But it's becoming a YouTuber, like a successful YouTuber as a career, I think is extremely difficult. It's a high degree of difficulty. There's a lot of other jobs you could do a lot easier, right? You can make a lot more money a lot easier. You get a lot more benefits a lot easier. But if it's something you think you enjoy, try it and see what happens. Yeah. The M52 asked me also, lead up to Switch 2 and or Metro Prime 4 release are going to grow a lot. Whenever that lead up to Switch 2 happens, yeah. Prime 4, oh yeah. But I kind of feel like those, like, my concern is those aren't going to happen until the second half of next year, which is a long time from now. I don't think we'll have to wait that long, but we'll see. Sunrise Sunset. Andre's content honestly relies on software and hardware releases. I love the comment about how if I see another recycled clip of that injured space pirate being scanned, I'm gonna go crazy, lol. Yeah, I mean, I tried to mix it up, right? But there's only 2 minutes of Metro Prime 4 footage. So it's kind of like, what do I do? Do I flip it? So, you know, I try to keep that in mind, but, you know, day in and day out, I understand your point. Wilberforce Wooster. Always switch to longer form videos. You don't need a brand new game for that, but YouTube algorithm isn't very kind to channels like that. That is more of a hobby channel. Yeah, making like an hour-long video. I've kind of thought about doing these long essay things, but that requires a lot of time and preparation, a lot of work, and it's a lot of investment for something that I don't know is necessarily going to work, and I don't know how much time I have to do that when I still try and make a video every day, right? So that's kind of there's challenges with that. It's not impossible, but it would require that I still make a video every day and I'm making something else on top of that, right? But I also do other things, right? There's not just that. I email different companies and, I get sponsorships lined up. There's a live stream, right? There's collabing and then social media stuff. There's a lot of other factors, sort of taxes. There's a lot of other little wrinkles. But I've thought about doing some things like that. Scrolling down. Yeah, I agree, Taker. Do YouTube as a hobby before you commit to full time. See where it goes. Ramp up over time. Vanguard asks, how much money do you need to make as a YouTuber to be happy as a career? I'm not going to put a solid number on that. But for me, it's about, I need to see forward progression, right? I need to obviously be able to pay all my bills. I need to be able to save. I need to be able to prepare myself for the years afterwards, right? I want to be able to support a family, have a house, grow, help others. There's a lot of nuance to that. And I'm definitely not there right now. But I still think I'm in the channel's infancy, really. So we'll see what happens. And what's also interesting though is that even if I end up having to take a step back, right? Like I'll never stop doing YouTube. It'll always be something on the side. And as like a side hustle, it's a nice side gig, right? While I do something else. That's not the end of the world either. But I remember when I did YouTube as just a hobby before, and I was always like, man, I wish I had more time to make more videos, right? Like I want to be able to make more videos. And especially once Switch 2 comes around and we see the next Pokemon game, we see Metroid, we see what Microsoft is working on, we see the next Splatoon game or what have you. And there's all these different games and things to talk about. There's going to be so much more material to have conversations on. Like I'll want to make a lot more videos. Oh, look who's here. Hi. Hey. Let me see if I can have her. Oh, she's stuck. Clawing. What are you doing? Come over here. Come over here. Hey. How you doing? Oh. It's okay. It's okay. This is the huntress. This is the beast who slayed the lizard. You good? She's good. She's good. Pepe Johnsones. Has anyone thought of the idea of a Pokemon Z being two separate games? Poke Z, Poke A would work as the usual duel that Pokemon games tend to come in, but this time for Legends. I hope not. I don't think that's what's going to happen because they would have announced that. They announced both games already. We wouldn't know if it's two games. It's just the one game. But that would be quite the plot twist. And, I do kind of think about like what they might mean from Z to A though, right? There might be Z Pokemon and A Pokemon. Like remember how there was Charizard and Mewtwo and X and Y had two Mega Evolutions? X evolution and a Y evolution. How cool would it be if they get A and Z evolutions as well? I'd be all for that. And I would also feel like there's got to be like an AZ reference there, Oz, right? From that the giant king dude that was around for thousands of years. Like, there's got to be a reference to that too. And then obviously Zygarde. There's a lot. There's a lot they can really pull from that. And, you know, there is some talk that maybe we don't get a Pokemon Presents this time because they haven't announced it yet, but we still may get like some big Pokemon news perhaps at Pokemon Worlds this weekend. I think we could still get a Presents. I mean, today's only Tuesday, right? They could announce a Presents tomorrow, have it come out Thursday. Seems unlikely, but it's not impossible. I think it could still happen next week. Or maybe we just get a Legend of Zelda trailer, you know, this weekend. Now, what would really floor me is if we get no Pokemon news at all this month. And then it would just be kind of weird, you know, especially considering this talk about Switch 2 getting delayed. It's like, what do we get? What news do we get? I mean, you could say, oh, we got Emio recently. Sure, but Emio is not another Pokemon game. This is big difference there. Big difference. Game Warrior 7. Hey friend, how are you? I got a new leak from inside Sony PlayStation, old exclusive. This is coming from Nintendo Switch 2. The Sony company is planning to bring their one old IP to Switch 2. What might that be? Bloodborne? Bloodborne? Is Jack and Daxter a PlayStation exclusive? What do you want to bring? I don't know. Anyways, I think we're pretty much near the end of the live stream, my friends. Thank you everyone for being a part of the show. I appreciate that. Thank you for all the likes, all for the supportive comments. It's a good conversation. It has been a good time. I have a video planned tomorrow. It might be about Switch 2, but we'll see. I might surprise you. I don't know yet. It hasn't been made yet, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, everyone, thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.